In December, the State Education Department's three-member East Ramapo School District Oversight Team issued its report. You may remember that we discussed the group's recommendations with both Chairman Dennis Walcott and finance expert John Sipple. We also discussed how to move forward in East Ramapo with Assemblyman Ken Zebrowski. We have reached out multiple times to Yehuda Weissmantel, the president of the school board there, but he has yet to appear on the show. Today, we welcome Yossi Gestetner, a Spring Valley resident and co-founder of the Orthodox Jewish Public Affairs Council, also known as OJPAC. Yossi, welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me.
So what's the mood been in the Orthodox community since Dennis Walcott's recommendations were announced last month?
I think there are two very important things which repeatedly come up when people talk about the issue of East Ramapo in this community. The first part is the dishonest nature of the debate, coming specifically from certain lawmakers. And then is the second part, that the lawmakers and the people pushing for state intervention in East Ramapo shun the community, but then reassure us that once a monitor is going to be here, this monitor is going to listen to whatever you have to say and take your concerns into consideration. And speaking about the dishonest nature, I'll give you a very clear example. A few weeks ago, Assemblymember Ken Zebrowski, who represents maybe 10% of this district, said that the state legislator has done a lot for funding in East Ramapo, and he said the district got $11 million. Dennis Walcott says this district needs $12 to $15 million a year in state funding. So Zebrowski gave the impression that most of this funding is already taken care of, because the district got an extra $11 million. But this is very dishonest because, number one, the $11 million were spread over 2 years. And Dennis Walcott is saying the district over 2 years would need $24 to $30 million.
Yeah, see, I think you're mischaracterizing what Zebrowski said. I think that he said that more money has gone to the district, but he certainly hasn't said that all the money that's been needed has been gone to the district.
No, but he clearly, I listened to the recording and I went through it. He gave the impression that $11 million...
But he said on my program in December that more money is needed.
No, okay, I understand, but he gave the impression that most of the funding issue has been taken care of.
Well, that might be the impression that you received, but it wasn't the one that I received.
Okay, so we can go back and listen to it. But I'm trying to tell you is that most of the added funding in East Ramapo is due to increased enrollment. It is nothing. It didn't add. It didn't help anything specifically on the issue of foundation aid.
Oh, I think a lot of people think and acknowledge that more funding is needed for this school district. There's no question about that. One of the reasons that I've asked you to come on, though, is to discuss some of the recommendations from the Walcott trio. I know that you're unhappy with the recommendation to install a monitor with veto power for reasons that we've covered in the past, but I want you to articulate them again here.
For a few reasons. First of all, there is no rationale for having a veto-powered monitor on the ground. I mean, East Ramapo's graduation rate beats many school districts, and it's there. None of the East Ramapo school districts are on the list of failing schools. Many members from the assembly in the Bronx, for example, last year, they supported Ellen Jaffe's bill against East Ramapo, but the Bronx has graduation rates much worse than East Ramapo. Take the same thing as Brooklyn. The graduation rate in Brooklyn is similar to East Ramapo, but lawmakers there were rushing to pass this bill. Assemblywoman Shelley Meyer from Westchester actually represents Yonkers. That school district is a complete mess. It gets much more funding than East Ramapo, and she was rushing to support a veto-powered monitor in East Ramapo. So there isn't even a rationale to have a veto-powered monitor here. And as I think the Senate Leader Flanagan pointed out, if school board members act in corrupt or illegal ways, there are mechanisms in place that can kick in and to take care of issues. I mean, we have an attorney general, we have a controller, you have the education department has existing powers to correct certain misdeeds that can be done by a board.
I don't think anybody is alleging that illegalities have been taking place by the board. Nothing illegal has happened, has it?
What is it?
nothing illegal has happened, has it?
No, exactly the point. Dennis Walcott, as mentioned by Loha, the General News, which is not at all friendly to the school board, they quoted, or they said that Walcott said he has not found anything criminal on behalf of the board. He has not even found that large misappropriations of funds by the board. So essentially, a veto-powered monitor is going to come in what? To reverse discretionary decisions of the board?
Well, we're talking in very black and white terms, Yossi, and I think that we do need to mention that Hank Greenberg, the first monitor, analyzed East Ramapo's finances and said that they were mismanaged and that the board abused executive session, that it recklessly spent the district's reserve fund, that it spent millions on an out-of-town law firm, that it was desperate to help private schools in which blinded them to the needs of the whole community. So there was a problem that, for example, Yonkers may not have had.
Okay, so here's the thing. Take someone like Greenberg. Greenberg has basically looked at the district from afar. He has not spoken to people in the private school community. He has not looked at things from all ends to get a good picture. He had a specific point of view. Then, of course, the education department came and put in a fresh monitor team of 3 people. And the way Kim Zabrowski keeps on saying is there's 4 independent people looked at the district and they came to the same conclusion.
I think there was 2 groups.
Okay, but he says, again, if you want me, I'll send you some screenshots on Twitter or on an email. He keeps on saying, and again, I think he said on your show again, 4 independent people looked at the district, when they're not 4 independent people. You have 3 people working at a team, and all both groups were commissioned by the same entity, the education department.
So do you think that there should be an outside monitor, a monitor that is not paid for or sponsored by, I should say, the state education department?
No. What I'm saying is, I personally don't object, to the principle of a school district, being taken a second look at how a school district is run. Oversight is okay. The issue is not oversight. The issue is not people looking. The issue is when you want to put in a veto-powered monitor to basically upend an elected school board on discretionary decisions, because things which are unethical, things which are illegal, things which are criminal, there are already existing mechanisms to correct it. And I think the state has acted here and another district to make sure that things are done the right way, which is perfectly okay.
So what do you do when there isn't anything illegal happening, but there has been reckless spending, a desperation to help private schools, rather, and a mismanagement of the finances?
Actually, the issue of the desperation of helping private schools, the Walcott report says clearly that the board provided for the private school only mandatory services and has not cut public school mandatory services to pay for private school services. So
all right, let's stipulate that. Then okay, let's say that's done. What about the reckless spending and the mismanagement?
Again, it's a very a lot of these things are up to perspective, and there are certain rules which are effective statewide. And if school districts behave in a certain way, then the state can perhaps pass laws which will make sure that school districts behave in specific ways. But when you take one school district out of all the 700 districts in New York, a district with no failing schools in it, a district which frankly holds its own considering the challenges that it has, the underfunding from the state, the socioeconomic makeup of the student body has effects on the student outcome. And then to say, I want this district to behave in this specific way, you're basically suspending elections, you're nullifying my vote, and there isn't even rationale for it. A differences of opinion, a difference of perspective by a point, take someone like Greenberg. Greenberg was appointed by people who are appointed by people who re-elected. That's like 3 generations away of being on the ground and having the authority to make a decision. So what I'm saying is, I understand
the point that you're making, but on the other side of the coin, you see that he's somebody who is objective. He came in and just did a job that he was appointed to do and issued his decision. And you don't like what he found, but it's still his decision.
Actually, what he found is good. What he found is perfect. What he found isn't the problem. The recommendations is the problem.
Well,
what he found and what Walcott found was there was no crime by the current board. There was no large misappropriation of funds. But they found that this district desperately needs state funding, and this is another problem.
Okay, I think everybody agrees there.
No, that's not true. Susan, with all respect, that's not true. If everybody agrees that this district needs funding, why did we have a bill last year on the floor which imposed a monitor but didn't do anything about funding?
Because that there was the reckless mismanagement of the state money that you already had. So if you want more, Yossi, if you want more taxpayer money, you're going to need more oversight. That's not what I'm saying. That's what the sponsors of the bill were saying.
With all due respect, is a term which a person arbitrarily decided to put on a district. It's a very broad brush term. And this is what I'm saying. When a school district, for example, faces frivolous lawsuits, should the district or should the district not fight it? Should it be run over by people trying to destroy the district or not? Many of these things are discretionary decisions.
Why aren't you working all together? I mean, what I guess I wonder as somebody who is just a reporter who is looking at this is why you and Yehuda and Ken Zabrowski and Shelley Mayer and all these people aren't working together to come up here and get more foundation aid.
This is exactly the question. I'm so glad that you brought this up, and that's something that you should ask Ken Zabrowski and David Colucci. And this is exactly one of the problems. Take for example Dennis Walcott. He has not visited private schools. He said it was not part of his scope of his work. He didn't have time. If you didn't visit private schools, how are you making recommendations which will affect private schools? Ken Zabrowski... Is
that his job, though, for private schools? I mean, taxpayer money doesn't pay for private schools. It pays for transportation.
Actually, certain mandated programs it does. But if you're going to make moves which will affect private schools, it will. But let me answer the thing about working together. And this is the biggest problem. When you have Ken Zabrowski, Ellen Jaffe, and David Colucci effectively shunning the private school community publicly, that's exactly the problem. Go visit David Colucci's Facebook page. Show me one picture where he proudly stands with people from the Orthodox community and says, I had today a productive conversation about East Ramapo. There aren't any. David Colucci is now pushing for a protest driven by people who mostly don't live in the district, and this is exactly the problem. These lawmakers shun our community. They run away from us publicly. Just look at the Twitter feed, look at the photos on the Facebook page. You'll be hard-pressed to find them probably meeting with leaders and representatives.
It's very hard to read a Twitter feed where people have, fake anonymous handles. And
No.
I think on both sides, Yossi, the Twitter feed about this issue has become ridiculous.
No, Susan. I'm talking specifically about accounts which are verified to be run by these lawmakers. David Colucci proudly met with people who don't even live in this district regarding this issue. He runs through his Facebook page, puts up photos. Look, I met and I'm doing stuff about it. But he is not meeting people from this community. And if he does,
what I'm hearing
he's ashamed of it.
From you is that you're pointing fingers instead of moving ahead. What is the? What are you?
I'm saying is I want to talk to him. I want to talk to him.
Yossi, you have 1 minute. Tell me what it is that you're going to be doing to move this forward.
Okay, what we will do to move things forward, you can look in City and State today's edition. There's a full-page ad from the Orthodox Jewish Public Affairs Council laying out facts about East Ramapo. In order for this issue to be resolved once and for all, we need to have an honest conversation about the facts. And once the facts are clear, once the facts are agreed to, if you will, then we can move forward to solutions. Another thing that I will be working is making sure and trying at least that lawmakers, Colucci, Zabrowski, and Jaffe would and will meet people from our community and will not keep it like a secret, if you will, and be ashamed of meeting us and say, yes, we, the Orthodox community, where we have 75% of the students in this district, we are a legitimate part of East Ramapo. We should be part of these conversations. They should meet us in public and be proud of meeting us and listening to us and hearing our concerns. And then, by having the facts and not shunning us, then we can move forward in a productive way.
Well, I hope that if you come to Albany this session that you will join me on the air again.
Amen. I will. Thank you.
Yossi Gestetner is a Spring Valley resident and co-founder of the Orthodox Jewish Public Affairs Council. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time.